All right. Welcome to another in the series of educational virtual classes being offered in partnership between the Smithville Area Chamber of Commerce and the Smithville Public Library, along with some very generous funding partners, which I will ask our library director, Judy Bergeron, to thank now.
Thank you very much, April. I am pleased to be able to give a shout out to the Institute for Museum and Library Services and the Texas State Library and Archives Commission for the grant that they provided to be able to offer these classes. And we do hope that everybody is getting some interesting information from them, and especially this time around because Mary is going to bring us some sustainability topics that she will be sharing with us. And it's just in time for our Eco Fest, which is coming up in Smithville on the 28th, Saturday the 28th, our Eco Photo Fest. So we hope you'll join us for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I will reiterate what Judy said about the Eco Photo Fest that's coming up on August 28th downtown in our Railroad Park from 10 a.m. to noon. Come on down and enjoy a fun morning of sustainability activities, including a bicycle repair shop and rodeo and bird parade and all kinds of fun things. Check out more about that at smithvilletx.org. Today, we want to welcome Mary Pretty, who, as our library director said, is going to give us a great presentation. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you the title of her class. And I will also remind those of you that are watching live to click at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little deal that says chat. Just click on there and type in any questions that you have. And at the end of Mary's session, she will have some time for Q&A. So Mary, welcome, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you both very much. Judy, thank you for the plug there. I actually live in the thriving metropolis of Dale, Texas, so I will be attending the Eco Fest this Saturday. So thank you for giving me something to do this weekend. My name is Mary Pretty, and I am the Conservation Program Manager for the City of Austin's Office of Sustainability. And that sounds like an important title. I'm just a lady who drives around and tells people to turn off the water when they brush their teeth. So today I'm going to sort of give you sort of a history on what the Office of Sustainability is doing in Austin. I'm going to focus on some energy conservation tips, not just in your homes and businesses, but also things that you can do in your car, because we're as you're going to see from a slide that I'm going to present here in just a moment. Energy conservation takes up 99% of the emissions that we're putting into the atmosphere, be it either through heating and cooling our homes or the emissions through our vehicles as we travel. So I just want to look at some things that we can do. I think sometimes people get a little afraid. They hear words like conservation and global and sustainability, and they get a little, it can be a little intimidating, and you think, we can't come out from under this. But it's like anything. If a lot of people get on board and we do a lot of little steps, that ultimately is going to equal out to a big change and really make a difference with the emissions in our region. I want to thank April for letting folks know about the chat feature. I will tell you that I am the least technical person on the planet. I think I still have a Betamax at home to watch videos. So I'm going to get through the program fairly quickly so we can get to the Q&A. Yeah, I will have to go back and scroll through and read those questions at a later time if any do come in. So if you can, it might be best to wait until the presentation's over, because I certainly don't want to miss anybody. So without that, I'm going to share my screen now and bring up the presentation. There we go. All right. So as I said, I am Mary Kay Pretty, the Conservation Program Manager for the City of Austin's Office of Sustainability. And just real quick, I wanted to let you know what our office's mission is. We're a relatively new office. We We were founded in 2007 at the request of Austin City Council. We were known originally as the Austin Climate Protection Program. And then in 2011, a woman named Lucia Athens came on board as our Chief Sustainability Officer. We were fortunate enough to filter, there I said it, to filter from Seattle. And she, up until the point that Lucia came on board, we were just focusing on carbon. There's carbon emissions. We have to stop carbon. That's all we talked about. And she brought us into a different line of thinking, just more of a holistic approach, that we need to look at, at the people on the planet itself, and just the prosperity of the planet. So we like to call it the 3 Ps. And from that was born our department's mission, and that we just want to protect and improve Austin's quality of life now and for future generations by leading the efforts to net zero community-wide greenhouse gas emissions. Give a little definition on that in a moment. We want to make sure that everybody in the region has healthy and local food system, so that folks aren't having to bust themselves for hours and hours just to get healthy, sustainable food. And then also we understand that there are some things that have happened to the planet that we can't reverse. So we need to be resilient and then adaptive to some of those changes that are happening. A lot of people think that the climate, global warming, sustainability, these are relatively new terms, but these are things that the city of Austin has been involved in since the 1980s. I just brought up some things that we've been doing, some of our track records since 2007, when we actually were born. But going back as far as the 1980s, the city of Austin had climate awards that they would give for folks in the city that were green. We had certainly the Save Our Springs, trying to conserve the water in the Barton Springs area. We've got our Austin Energy, our electricity provider for the city. They have a green building program that just recently celebrated 30 years. So these are things that the city has been involved in for a long time. But it was actually in 2007 that the City Council made the resolution that Austin would become the leading city in the nation in the effort to reduce the negative impacts of global warming. That's a direct quote from the resolution. And that resolution established a goal of the city operations. So just how we function as municipal operations to be carbon neutral by 2020. And we're all looking at the calendar going, it's 2021. Did you make it, Mary? We came close. I can say that all city operations, as far as their electricity production and electricity usage, is carbon neutral. We're all on what something's called green choice. So that's a renewable energy source where a large portion of the energy is coming from wind, but we do have some solar in there. We do have a little bit of biomass, but a large portion of it comes from wind. And if it's a city facility, be it a police station, a fire station, a library, an office building, a refueling station, know that the electricity that is running that facility comes from renewable sources. Obviously, we're working on the vehicle part of it. Obviously we have an extensive fleet, but as a municipal operations, we also have to be good stewards of citizens' funds. I mean, we can't just go, what, we want to be green, we're just going to scrap all 5,000 vehicles that we have and buy electric vehicles. We can't do that. So what we're doing is we're slowly phasing in electric vehicles. We're using E85, which is a fuel source that is a lot more sustainably produced and doesn't put out quite the emissions that petroleum does. So we're getting there. It's going to take a little longer. We're currently putting in the infrastructure in order to support more electric vehicles, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the presentation. But as you can see, this is something that's very important to the citizens of Austin and then the surrounding regions such as Smithville. And so what we want to be is we want the city to be net zero by 2050. Well, what the heck does that mean, Mary? Well, that means that we want that by 2050, municipal operations, the folks living in the city, in the region, to have zero emissions in the atmosphere. So we're looking to have, renewable energy in folks' homes. We're looking to have, renewable energy in vehicles. We're looking to make sure that we're recycling so that we're not putting materials in the landfill to cause the production of methane. Another greenhouse gas is, in addition to carbon, that has tremendous heat trapping capabilities. And so we're working with area stakeholders to achieve this goal. We're actually so far ahead of some of our projected targets that we recently submitted an updated climate plan to our city council, and we're actually going to move this up to that we're hopeful to be net zero by 2040. So that's quite a jump to take that 10 years off, especially when you consider that we're barreling towards 2022. So this is just 18 years away. And, when you're 2 years old, 18 years is a long time. When you're working, to hit a goal like this, that's not a lot of time. So we talk a lot about, I've been talking about emissions. So what are the things that produce these emissions in Austin and in the surrounding region? The big one is energy use. It's Austin, it's Smithville, it's Central Texas in August. Obviously we cannot turn off our air conditioners, so we need to find ways to adapt and make the energy that runs those a little more resourceful. The second are fossil fueled vehicles. I always have trouble with that statement. And a lot of people are going through the same problems. Obviously, the city are. Nobody wants a car payment. You've got a car you've had for 10 to 15 years. Perhaps it's not the most fuel efficient vehicle, but it's yours and it's paid off. And that we understand that. So working to put programs in place that we can help citizens get to some of these more sustainable features like electric cars. We can't just stand back and go, hey, we're the city, we're telling you to be greener, if we don't give you the information as to why you need to be greener and then the tools in order to do that. So that's something that we're working on. I mentioned methane earlier. It's when I talk to people about the importance of recycling and keeping things out of the landfill, I think we're such a visual society that when I tell people emissions from a car, they get that. You start a car, you see the exhaust come out of the tailpipe, and you go, that can't be good. That you can see that emission, you can smell that emission. It's something that you can wrap your mind around. But when you think of the landfill, when folks take materials to the landfill, what do? They dig a hole, they put the materials in there, they bury it, dig a bigger hole, more stuff, that those things are going to break down. And when those materials break down without the presence of oxygen, that produces a gas, that's called methane. If you're old like me, if you remember going to what we called the dump instead of the landfill, it's that unique smell that the landfills have. And that gas, depending upon which scientists you talk to, can have anywhere from 40 to 60% of more heat trapping capabilities than carbon. So, you don't see it, you don't really understand it, but it's so important that we keep things out of the landfill, because that methane is doing terrible things to the atmosphere. And then the smallest one on the scale is the industrial processes that related to just the semiconductor industry here in Austin. It's something that's very important to our economy, but it's also something with the water usage that's used, the electricity usage. It can have a big burden and a big impact on whether the city achieves their carbon neutrality goals. So every 5 years, the city does what's called, we do our carbon footprint. And that's 2017. So we're actually gathering information soon for next year's. And carbon footprint, the easiest way to describe it is it's like starting a diet. You know, what's that horrible thing you do when you start a diet? You get on the scale. I don't, I'm allergic to scales, but those that are brave enough will get up there, because you need to set a baseline. You know, you need to find out, you know, what our emissions are, what we're putting into the atmosphere, you know, so that we can find out, you know, are our actions, are they having a negative or positive impact? And then, you know, we can make those adjustments along the way. And in 2017, as you can take a look, as I said earlier, you know, energy from our buildings and then transportation, it makes up the bulk of it. You know, 51 and 39%. And so we were putting, you know, approximately 12.5 million metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere in 2017. So what exactly does net zero in 2050 mean? Well, we've been working to establish, you know, benchmarks and goals that we can hit. And so we've been setting, you know, interim goals. And as I said, the first set of goals that we wanted to hit, we wanted to reduce emissions by 22% by 2020. As I said, we did that. We went past it. We ended up with 31%, which is what gave us the confidence to suggest that maybe we can move that goal of 2050 up to 2040. And what that 22% what the savings did, that dropped us down to from 17 to 11 million metric tons of carbon. So it's definitely having a very definite impact. As you can see, we'll the blue on the screen are our energy emissions. The orange is transportation. Then we have so I talked to processes, and then, you know, waste management. So the other two on the scale that I talked about earlier. As you can see, the one that we're having the biggest trouble is transportation. Not only is Austin growing, but it's growing out. You know, as I said, I live in the Bastrop area. I've lived there for 30 years. So, you know, I've made concessions. I've gotten rid of my dryer. I hang everything up outside. You know, I've purchased a vehicle that has runs on E85. So it's more efficient, you know, and then, you know, certainly now, you know, working from home a great deal more than certainly we have in the past with because of the pandemic. But I mean, it's tough. This city was not initially designed, or this region wasn't really initially designed to get people out of their cars. So that's why it's so important that we stress the importance of you know, taking, you know, public transportation where you can, carpooling. You know, the city is putting a lot of money into bike lanes. We're just again, making sure that we give people the tools that they need to be successful, because we certainly can't, you know, tell somebody that, you know, lives in Smithville but works in Austin, hey, yeah, we're going to be green, you can't drive your car anymore. Now that individual needs is, you know, they need to provide food for their family, they need to, you know, pay their bills. And so it's, you know, we need to help them if we want to achieve these goals. So some of the things that the city is doing in order to help bring the emissions down is by 2030, we're looking to retire the coal-fired plant in Fayette. We're on target to do that. And some of the studies that have been done from the emissions from this are just amazing. I read one on some pecan trees that had grown out there for years. And you know, about 10, 12 years ago, they just stopped producing. And they, you know, in dissecting the trees and looking into it, it's a direct result of, you know, of all the emissions that are coming from this plant. So, you know, it's important that we do this for the environment, not just for the air that we breathe, but also, you know, for food supplies and just, you know, just folks' general health. Another thing the city is trying to do is they're looking to get 65% of our energy needs from renewable sources by 2027. And we're well on the way. When the plan was initially developed in 2007, it was only at 40%. And, this is through programs like Green Choice, folks are able to purchase renewable energy. They're seeing the benefits from it. I'm going to show a slide here in a second on solar panels, and just things like homeowners associations are not being as strict and stringent as they had in the past about things like this. They're understanding the importance of this and what they mean to our city and then our region as well. This is that slide, and it's just in the past, just trying to get businesses or homeowners to take advantage of some of the tremendous opportunities with regards to funding and grants and rebates from not just the municipal level, but the state level and the federal level to put solar panels on their home. One of the big assembly blocks where people were just like, they're ugly, and now, just as anything, as you develop something more, as technology improves, it seems hourly, they're smaller, they're more efficient, they don't have to be placed in certain positions, and they're just becoming more readily available and accepted. So I said, I live in a tiny little town of Dale, Texas, and we actually have a wind turbine in our yard, and it's pretty neat to get your electric bill and see a negative number. It's nice that you can, then obviously we're able to pull power from the grid when we need it, but it's certainly something that is a good selling point for people and something that people understand and want to take part in. One thing that we're really stressing with people is just trying to reduce 900 megawatts of energy just through energy efficiency. I have a child. His favorite thing to do is to leave the lights on and open the refrigerator for 45 minutes, till there's icicle growing off his nose. And they're just trying to just help people understand just by being more efficient. I mean, if you don't use as much, one, it saves you money, and two, we're not having to produce as much. Sometimes people get into sort of a false sense of security, and they're like, well, you're telling me how great renewable is. I can use as much as I want. Well, I guess in principle you can, but it's like, the diet cookies, just because they're diet doesn't mean you should eat the whole box. So we still want to talk to people about, making sure that the energy that they have, they're using efficiently, for their benefit, and then also for the environments, and not just at homes, but in businesses as well, and just making sure that we give them the information that they need and the rebates that they need in order to get the proper equipment so they can be more efficient. I talked a little bit about electric vehicles, and you said, well, that sounds great, Mary, but where do I plug these in? And so that's why over the last year, which has been difficult, been really challenging, obviously due to the pandemic, we've been getting out and making sure that we have the charging stations that people need, and we've installed over 350 charging stations in the last 18 months. And we're putting them in places where people need them. We're putting them in HEB parking lots. We're putting them in like at Dell. We're putting them in at Samsung. We're putting them in large shopping areas so that people can, as they're shopping, they can plug in. Austin Energy also has a program that if you subscribe to their energy program, their energy efficiency program, for an additional $5.17 a month, they will give you a code, and with that code, you can plug in anywhere in the city. So effectively, they're paying for to fuel your vehicle. It's $5 a month times 12. That's $60 a year. It's all you're paying for fuel costs. So. And obviously, we need to work with local car dealers, which is what the city has done also to help people twice a year, we have rebate programs for folks if they want to go look at electric vehicles. We can give them the help that they need, because as I said earlier, it sounds great to stand up here and go, hey, go buy an electric vehicle, you'll solve all of our problems. Well, not everybody can do that, and so that's why it's imperative that the city help people as much as we can. It's Austin, so obviously a big thing that we're working on is a strategic mobility plan. And the chief goal of this plan is to get a larger share of the population to sort of embrace alternatives to cars. Right now, about 75% of all Austin residents just drive to work by themselves. And we would let the plan calls to reduce that number to 50% by 2039. And in order to do that, we need to make public transportation more enticing. We need to for those that like to ride a bike, we need to make it safer. For those that walk, we need to make it safer. So these are things that the city is really working on to make sure we have the bike lanes that we need. We have safe walking areas, with regards to smooth terrain and lighting for those that walk, and working with area businesses to sort of supplement folks' income so that they can take part in carpool programs, either that perhaps the business may offer, or Capital Metro, the bus system in Austin. They have programs that the folks can opt in. So they're just making sure that they have this information, and then they have the resources to take part. And like I said, it's the city of Lance Armstrong. So obviously we had to do a bicycle master plan, and again, hoping to significantly increase bicycle use and improve the safety, not just for adults, but children. If we can get them on bikes earlier, make them safe and feel confident, perhaps they'll grow up into to be lifelong riders. We have a program in town called the B-Cycle. These are bikes that are, there's a photograph of it here, that are stationed throughout the city. And since we entered into this program 5 years ago, we have over 700,000 bike trips. So it's something that's working. The first 30 minutes are free, and then after that, we'll start charging. But if it's just something where you run down the street to get lunch or something like that, this is an alternate form of transportation. I hadn't been on a bike since I was 9. That just seeing me on a bike was hopefully that's on video somewhere. That's worth all the laughs in the world. We talked a little bit about. I know I'm going to do a deeper dive on this next week. I've got a presentation scheduled on zero waste, but just to know that it is something that the city is very dedicated to, and understand the importance of. Our resource recovery department, which is our waste management services division, they've got a zero waste goal of 2040, and so what that means is that by 2040 they want to divert 90% of materials from area landfills. Now we understand that there's some things you just have to throw away, and but just really increasing awareness about recycling, reusing. We've got a curbside composting program that we recently completed the rollout to residents and businesses in certain sections of the city. So, as I said, just making sure that people are aware of these programs and that they're able to take part. So, if we do what we've talked about, our projections are that we will go from 12.5 million cubic tons of CO2 in 2017 down to 8 million by 2030. So what's so interesting about this is that you see the transportation gets bigger, and as I said, it's tough, getting people out of their cars. It's hot. It's, that's why we're working so closely with Capital Metro to to put in more routes. So you can't ask somebody to stand outside for 30 minutes in 100-degree weather and wait for a bus because it's the best thing for the city. It's not the best thing for that person. So we that's going to be the challenge for the city is and everybody really in the region, since our area is growing so quickly and it tends to be growing out as opposed to up, like some major cities. But yeah, still by 2030, that largest percentage of our countywide emissions will come from our transportation sources. So what can I do? Well, I think that, as I said earlier, people think that we have to do such drastic, life-changing things, and it's really not. I mean, you just think about ways that you can be more efficient. In the office, most people's office are home now, obviously due to the pandemic. But just shutting down your computer. I think a lot of people feel that they have to leave it in some type of sleep mode because it's best for the system. But most computers have been tested. They can be turned off and on 40,000 times. So when you think about that number, turning it on twice a day, 365 days a year, you're still not gonna coming close. I'm choosing the right light bulbs, making sure that I'm using LEDs. So they're going to put out 75% less electricity. And also they're putting out a lot less heat. They don't get as hot. So your cooling costs are coming down. A big thing is just unplugging idle electronics. We all have them. As I said, I have a child who just feels like I have to keep my game on, Mom, or I won't be high score. You know what, son, hit the save button and let's move on. And that's why power strips are so wonderful. You take one and then plug in those things that you don't use all the time. So as when you're done with your computer, you're done with your copy machine, things like that, you can just hit the switch on the power strip and not continually draw that electricity out. And we all have heard our father, to just turn the light off when you leave the room. It's just none of these, I know you're sitting there going, Mary, none of these are earth shattering, but they're so simple. I think that sometimes people just get so locked in on trying to do, I'm not going to bathe. I'm not going to turn my lights on. I'm going to grow all my food. No, you're not. No one's going to stick to something like that. But, I just ask people to pick one or two of these, do that, master that, make that a part of your life. I think that the problem that folks that are my generation have is that this is all new. This is all a big change. The only person in my past that told me to conserve energy was my dad, who controlled the checkbook and shut the door. I don't want to air condition the neighborhood. But all these things that I'm having to do now, and they were difficult for me to learn as well, are things that my child, kids growing up now, this is all part of. They get this. It's as much in their DNA as video games. They grew up recycling. They understand the importance of conservation, water conservation, energy conservation. So I always tend to think that we can get to the kids. I think we're going to be fine. My generation wants to do the right thing. It's just change is tough, and we certainly understand that. So that's why we like to start easy. We're all beginners in this, and then move on to something maybe a little more extensive. And then just some things, with regards to driving, as I said earlier, think about things that you can do. Can you walk there? Can you ride a bike? Certainly with safety first. We don't. This is something that I stress. I spend a lot of time talking to kids. Safety first. If you can't get to where you're going, safely, have your mom drive you. That's a no-brainer. But if you look at things like just how much, if you break it down the numbers, I mean, just 20 pounds of carbon, if just from that little drive, and you think, oh, it's 20 pounds, you're talking about millions. Again, we're all doing this. If we can all cut out that 20 pounds of carbon, imagine what the savings are going to be, when we add it all up at the end. Don't be a lead foot, that whole, starting and stopping, it sounds silly, but if you can reduce your emissions by 20% just by going a little easy on the brake, not, one from the other, start, stop. My son just recently learned to drive. So, this also cuts down on whiplash, I'm finding. So idling, this is something that, when I ask people what they think the busiest time where the city gets its most emissions, the answer is always one of two, and they're both wrong. And that is rush hour in the morning or rush hour at night. And actually, most emissions are entered into the atmosphere at lunchtime, because it's a higher concentration of cars just sitting. We're banking, we're at the grocery store, dry cleaners, we're at the drugstore, and you from like 11 to 1, you've got these people that are just sitting in their cars. And so that's why we really try to convince people that if you can just cut 5 minutes of idling time, it's measurable savings. And people think that it's worse to start and stop. If you're going to be there, if you're going to idle for a minute or more, it's better to turn your car off. Obviously, as I said earlier, it's Texas, it's AC. We turn our ACs off in December and we turn them back on in February. It's just how things are. So if you're in the vehicle, just some things you can try to do. Maybe if you're 5 or 10 minutes out from your destination, then maybe turn that off, and you can turn on the hit the circulation button. Keep what's in there circulating. It won't be as cold, but it's going to save you gas, and which is ultimately going to save on emissions. And as I said earlier, consider hybrids or electric cars. Like I said, nobody likes a car payment. No one likes to take on something that large. But when the time does come, consider looking at something. If you're not feeling completely comfortable buying an electric car. I will say that it was something that I was hesitant to do and still haven't done, because I do have such a long drive in. But they've, just like anything, technologically, batteries have improved. What used to be, we can go 100 miles. Now we can go 400 or 500 miles between charges. And places, cities, businesses, they understand the importance of this. So they're putting in the infrastructure so that you can, stop at Buc-ee's and, and charge your car, as you're shopping for road snacks, and then move on. And, as I said, it can really have a measurable impact if we can start getting folks into more fuel efficient vehicles, or, if using renewable energy type vehicles, because especially if that, as the vehicle charging stations that the city is putting in place, they're all powered by solar energy. So there is absolutely no emissions going into the production of that energy. And then if we can plug them into use that energy to power electric cars, there's absolutely no emissions from the production of the energy, as well as the usage of that vehicle. So that's it. As I said, I wanted to kind of jump through that pretty quickly. Typically, I find that people attend these presentations have a specific question that they'd like to ask. So let me unshare here. And if you guys have any questions, comments, don't like my hair. In the chat.
Mary, so there's a question here from Judy Bergeron. Too many sustainable activities such as recycling, electric vehicles, etc., are less affordable to small businesses, middle and low income households, etc. Are there things we can all do within our means to help work towards those goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I said that's something that I was trying to stress in our presentation. I get that. there has to be a culture shift. I think that sustainability has always been sort of like a rich white guy thing. I hate to, to use that term, but it just seems like, it's Priuses and, solar panels, and, everybody's impacted by this. And so that's why the city is working, we are, to make sure that we have, rebates, we have programs in place for, where people can take part in these. Because like I said, people can't, just run out and, oh, the city said so, let me go buy this electric car. And like recycling, that's, I work for the Office of Sustainability. I live in Dale, Texas. I schlep all my stuff in every Monday to a friend because we don't have recycling. So the one thing that I'm really doing is I'm trying to be such an advocate to the smaller communities, and, to make sure that, we can get these things to the people. Because like I said, I can't sit here and tell you to do something if I'm not giving you the tools in order to do it. Sadly right now there is a disconnect, that there is kind of a chasm between, the haves and the have-nots. And I know that the city of Austin is working to bridge those through, like our composting program, our recycling program. We have the one-stop recycling, essentially. It used to be you had to separate everything. Now you just throw everything, in your container, and they do the separating, at the facility. But it's working with schools too, making sure that that we're recycling at schools. We're helping area schools get more sustainable transportation. There obviously we can't, there's some, we're working with like AISD with the special needs kids. I mean, we can't turn the bus off on with special needs kids, but so making sure that those buses that are taking those children to and from school are electric, so that we can keep that air conditioner on and make sure that they're comfortable. So I know I just kind of skirted all around that. It's a big problem, Judy, and it's something that we understand. It's just taking a big shift to make sure that we can get resources to people. That's why the city every twice a year we have rebate programs for people that we're looking to buy electric vehicles. We offer them as as a city employee, and then also there's things that grants that they can get, or rebates they can get from typically the state level as well. It's just, we need to funnel a big chunk of the money back to those communities, and working on it. It's just taking some time.
So we have another question here, Mary, from Jill Struby. Have you run into business opportunities that allow residents to bring their recyclable products to a local business that will turn them into something new, for example, glass, tires, etc.?
We actually have something in, it's actually a city building. We have, it's our hazardous waste materials, and folks can bring whatever they have. They can bring glass, they can bring paint, they can bring concrete, they can bring styrofoam peanuts. And what these facilities do, we have two of them. We have one south and one north in Austin, and they'll take those, like the paint, for instance. They've got three different shades. There's like an off blue, there's an off white, and there's an off green. And so they mix all this return paint. So you're not exactly, if this is something you're going to do on the inside of your house, not a good idea. But if it's, if you're going to, paint, like a garage or a doghouse, or I do a lot of animal rescue work. And so we'll go get paint, and this is all free. So you go to our hazmat location and get these things, and, we'll go paint the buildings at animal rescue, at dog shelters and things like that. Like crushed glass, you can take glass, or they'll crush it so folks can come and use that to zero-scape their yard, so we're not using as much water. I run a program through the city called the Austin Green Business Leader Program, And I'm starting to get, like I got a notice today from a gentleman who wants me to come out and take a look. And that's what they do is they want people to, it's a concrete company, and they want people to, as they're like replacing, steps in their yard, or, whatever they may have some, excess concrete for, they can take that and they can turn that into something. Austin has a series of, it's like a little co-op of artists called Blue Genie, and they'll take anything. And what Blue Genie does is they take those materials and they make art out of them. Like every year, that program I just mentioned, the Green Business Leaders, when I give awards out, I go to Blue Genie and ask them to, make me planters, and it's all done with like driftwood or repurposed glass. So, like anything, people see a business opportunity and they'll take advantage, and we're really starting to see that now in Austin. I think part of it was born out of the success of our hazardous materials programs. People recognize, hey, we can make something out of old paint. We can do something with this old glass. We can compress that styrofoam and give that back to local businesses to use as packing material. So it's certainly something that we didn't see a lot of, but in the last probably 2 or 3 years, it's really starting to trend in that direction.
So Smithville does have a recycling center, as well as a hazardous waste materials facility. Do you have any tips for business owners to help, not only for the business owners themselves, but for businesses as a whole in rural communities, to really educate our business community on the importance of recycling and using local facilities? Do you have some examples of what you've done to encourage folks to use those local facilities?
As I said, I have the Green Business Leader program, so word of mouth is just invaluable. Just telling businesses what we have, and they'll let others know. We do workshops. We have newsletters. We're certainly very active. Social media. I mean, it reaches so many. But it's a slow process. Like I said, this was something that took forever for us to sort of gain a hold on. And obviously now with, and I hate to keep harping on the pandemic, businesses are when I would try to go out and speak to them on these matters, like, look, man, we got enough problems. We're at half capacity. I got other things to worry about than how green I am. But and I would be happy to if there's something that I can do. My job is to help in this region. So if I can come out and talk to the businesses, or put some materials together, I'm happy to do that. But as I said, it's word of mouth, and I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, is typically the best.
All right. Well, we don't appear to have any other questions. Those of you that are watching, is there any other thing? Are there any other questions you'd like to pose to Mary before we end the class today? You feel free to. You can also just pop in, turn on your video, and ask a question if you don't want to type it in.
And then my email address is right there. That's why I left that. I can. April should have that, and then. If there's something maybe you just like to talk to me about, in private, happy to do that as well. So shoot me an email. I am here to help. So please use and abuse me.
Thank you, Mary. That was very interesting. I am excited to hear that our largest regional urban center is on target for 2040, which doesn't actually sound like that far away anymore when you consider where we are now. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, because when I took this job in 2007 and they're talking about 2050, I'm like, oh my God, I'll be dead then. But then things just Technology is a wonderful thing. I mean, everything that I've said, you know, this could be some 10-year-old kid sitting in a basement somewhere, who knows, coming up with a Scrub-O-Matic 10,000, you know, that'll take care of all this. So, I mean, we just got to keep doing what we're doing, you know, keeping, you know, and yeah, I think we'll be fine. You know,
Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate your insights today. I have had another question just come in asking if we can share your slides. So if you don't mind emailing those to me, we'll include those when we when we upload this presentation, the video presentation. So for those of you that are watching, go ahead.
I was going to say that would be the first thing I do when we get out of here, send them to you.
For those of you that are watching live or that are watching later virtually, these classes are all available, including this class today, at smithvilletx.org, which is the Chamber's website. Also on the Facebook page for the Smithville Area Chamber of Commerce and the Facebook page for the Smithville Public Library. So Mary, again, thank you. And we'll see you again for your next class, which I believe is on the 25th, also at noon. So until then, that's yes, ma'am, we'll see you. And we've already mentioned
see you on Wednesday.
And if you are watching now, Eco Photo Fest is coming up again, just as we said at the beginning of the presentation, on the 28th from 10 to noon. Okay, thank you. That's the end of the class.
Thank you, everyone.